right, I think you can more or less hear me. Thank you so much for being so patient. We are a little bit late, but we're in Geneva after all, so it's not so Swiss. And we do have quite an international panel that I really have the pleasure here to be able to moderate today. I'm really grateful to the Crypto Valley Association for putting this event on in Geneva. Geneva often gets forgotten in the wider Swiss Crypto Valley area, so it's really great to have the first one here. It's also quite a special conference for me, as it's been 4 years since I'm affiliated with the Crypto Valley Association. No longer actually in an executive role, but moving to a non-executive role actually now very shortly. So it's a really cool time to be alive and also to be part of the Crypto Valley Association. So I think without further ado, we'll start off today just by giving a quick intro to everyone here, and then I have some really cool and hopefully fire-starting conversations to light up the panel with. So maybe we kickstart quickly, just quick intro, Gianluca, about yourself, and yeah.
Sure. So Gianluca Santavicca, legal specialist of the innovation area in Banca Sella.
Hi everyone, my name is Elodie TREVILLOT. I'm the head of compliance of Banca DELUBAC company, which is a really small bank, which is a family bank, almost 100 years old this year. And it was the first bank who obtained the CASP license in France. So we are changing everything and we are putting innovation in front of our strategy for the next year.
Yeah, hi. My name is Ricardo Martins. I'm the general manager of Bison Digital Assets, which is the crypto arm of Bison Bank. Bison Bank in Portugal was the first in Portugal to receive the virtual asset service provider license, and it's still the only one today in Portugal. And it's not so old, but also a very traditional investment bank, not retail bank, with more than 30 years of experience in investment banking.
Hi everyone, my name is Guillaume Chatain. I'm head of sales at SG Forge. Forge is a fully owned subsidiary of Societe Generale group that was founded in 2018 and is like fully dedicated to digital assets. I actually joined just last week, and before that I was for 3 years head of institutional sales at Coinbase for International.
Fantastic. Well, it's a pleasure to have you all here. And I think one of the first questions here that's probably on everyone's mind is kind of what is the sentiment with regards to crypto at the bank. So maybe, Elodie, I give you the parole first, and that you can say a little bit, because when we were in our prep call, you gave some interesting statistics about, in France, the amount of people that have an active crypto wallet with regards to how many people have an active structured products wallet, I think it was. I mean, do you want to give a load of...
I think the statistic is from the French Market Authority. And actually in France, we have 9 million crypto wallet users, and we have only 8 million of investment portfolio customer in France. So that being said, we see in France we have more crypto users than standard investment users, and it's the main issue, and it's the main point for the banks that we already have customers who ask crypto services from bank.
Yeah, and maybe tell us a little bit more about that side of the risk culture you're telling us, and that the banks, even though that statistic is quite mind-blowing, right? There's more people that have active wallets than have active structured products accounts. I mean, why is this kind of, is there a sort of risk culture, the compliance side? What is the problem? Is it the AML side? Why aren't banks in France starting to offer this?
I think most of French banks right now have wonderful innovation team, but most of them do not propose crypto services at all. Why? I think it's linked, we'll talk all day long about the regulation framework. And I'm the head of compliance, so I think the main issue, the main limitation for French bank is all the risks they need to manage, this new risk they need to manage. They need to educate their team, compliance team, legal team, operational team, and it's a huge step in terms of culture. They need to change their risk culture. In Banque DELUBAC, we have a managing partner who has a PhD in IT. He's a huge crypto fan. He was a miner and he started in 2011. So I think the culture changed by the top. For most banks, then the innovation team needs to convince the board that the crypto is the next generation of services.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for being here. It's always the hardest to get compliance folk either in the room or on stage. So thank you so much for doing that. And maybe we pivot to yourself, Ricardo, because we're discussing a bit about the Portuguese ecosystem related to banks, and you had a feeling that the kind of the crypto side related to banks was like you felt this feeling of being shut out. Maybe you can talk a little bit more to us.
Yeah, the bank is again, it's an investment bank. It's focused on high net worth individuals and also corporates, but it's also a bank that acts very internationally. So we have clients from more than 110 jurisdictions. But going into Portugal, Portugal is seen, and it is a tech hub in Europe. And is regarded quite positively regarding crypto, but when it comes to banking, if you know the ecosystem, we've got a lot of startups working in crypto that cannot have a bank account open in other banks. So that is not so different from the whole panorama in Europe. And to go to Elodie's point, I think. It is definitely there is a gap, sort of say, in terms of also knowledge of the space, in terms of the banks, and maybe that is why we have here standing not tier 1 banks or tier 1 bank or tier 2 bank, because in my view it's easier to have a bank such as ourselves, having me and my team. To do this education journey also within the bank from all perspectives. It's not just compliance. It's also on the risk perspective, on the accounting perspective, etc. And so, and it's a process, right? It's a process. But definitely there is still some shutdown of upfront on companies, and we're a lot about not doing that, right?
Yeah,
so it's not so much about being crypto friendly. I like to say a not so fancy word that is crypto fair. So what we very openly discuss with whoever comes to our door is, listen, we are going to be KYC as you would be KYC in traditional finance, not more, not less. Of course, that there is a risk assessment and levels that of course. Crypto always is a high-risk client, but it's not higher risk than other higher-risk clients in traditional finance. And I think that's a lot about that, is, honestly looking into these new business models from new crypto startups and understanding them deeply and conveying day after day this knowledge into the DNA of the bank, which is a traditional bank doing their journey.
No, thank you for that. And before we move on to Guillaume here, I just want to piggyback off what you said. There was that positive kind of news, and you were very positive in the call that we had. I mean, maybe you can tell us a little bit about some of the positive news with regards to like sentiment. I mean, we spoke about some of the risk mitigation side. I mean, you spoke about MiCA. You spoke also about like the rise of tokenization. Do you want to give a few words on the positive side of things?
Yeah. I like to be an optimistic guy, so I think that MiCA is bringing a lot of positiveness towards Europe and towards Europe for the world. I mean, there is nothing similar to MiCA in at least at this scale in any other jurisdiction. So I truly feel that Europe has the chance to lead in a positive way in crypto and in banking. And throughout the day, I've seen these amazing, colleagues of this industry talking about where are we at, why don't we do more? I think it's gradual, but I think it's happening, and I believe that MiCA will be definitely a plus for us, and it's helping this shutting down that we still feel. And these fears. So, my perspective is...
A little bit of positivity is always good. And I mean, Guillaume, for myself, I mean, Forge has been at the forefront when it comes to applications, or let's say fintech banking applications of blockchain technology. Do you want to talk to us a little bit about some of the ones that you know of that are happening internally. I know you joined just recently, so we won't ask too many details, but maybe you can tell us a little bit about some of the ones that are going on and that you're excited about.
Yes, thanks. Really excited about it, and actually, I want to respond to that. Is a few reasons why I decided to join Forge. The first one is because Forge is one of the leaders in securities tokenization, and I believe tokenization of securities such as bonds, like structured products, even cash, is like a place where there's going to be exponential growth. Few numbers I can share. I was looking at the statistics last year. There were 13 issuances for a total of $720 million of securities. The number year to date has been 9 issuances, but we're already very close to 1 billion. Wow. So I think we're almost going to be a 10x growth this year. This is something that I've seen when I was at Coinbase, from 2021 to 2022. We 10x the trading and almost the revenues as well at the same time. I think on the tokenization side, what is going to happen to banks is going to be something very similar. The products that we have at Forge, I mentioned, starts with tokenization of simple products, although the issuances are complex, but bonds. One of the best products that was tokenized last year was a green bond issued by SocGen for its own purpose. 50 million of issuance that were bought by AXA Investment Management and Generale. Other types of securities that are tokenized are structured products and certificates of deposits. SocGen being one of the leaders in terms of structured products issuance on the investment bank side, and we're trying with Forge to take advantage of these, leverage the sales forces, and try to just distribute tokenized structured product in the entire ecosystem. One layer that is very important for all this when you do stuff on chain is to have a settlement layer. And this is why Forge decided to launch a stablecoin. That's a stablecoin that is issued on Ethereum. Obviously, it has to be on a public blockchain, and is the only bank that has been doing this so far.
Wow.
The second reason I joined is I think the mindset is changing. You were talking about innovation labs. I think we're in banks now, we move from innovation labs into this is a business unit, and I have P&L objectives. I think the message that Forge sent to the world by hiring me was really now we have a head of sales, and we really want to show that we have a P&L, and I have objectives to generate revenues this year, and these are high objectives. And finally, the last one is SG Forge is one of the only ones, or at least they're a leader in terms of using public blockchains. A lot of the competitors have been doing this on private blockchains, R3, Corda, Daml, but SocGen has been deciding to do stuff first and foremost on public blockchain, which is Ethereum. We're looking at other blockchains as well, and potentially being able to meet other banks on some of the more permission networks, but it's still TBD.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, that's quite mind-blowing to me when I first heard it, that you mentioned that banks are moving from permission system to permissionless. I mean, it seems a bit of an oxymoron sometimes. I mean, Gianluca, you commented on that as well in the call. Can you give us some more perspective there, as you were telling us that there were some projects, some tokenization projects as well that you see internally moving more permissionless as well? Can you give maybe the audience a little bit more context there?
Yeah, sure. So let me first say something that Banca Sella is a family-owned bank. So I'm trying to connect what Elodie said, 140 years of history, Banca Sella as well. And I'm not giving this information just to promote the bank, but simply because when there's a family name in the bank, there are certain considerations that need to be taken care of. First of all, reputation. So you just cannot only be compliant. Most of the times we say, well, we are compliant. We cannot only be compliant. We have to take care of that name. That is the first thing that is said when we jumped in. So one of the things that I believe scare the most banks is that permissionless. So we have regulatory upcoming, will be applicable at the end of the year. Mika, something for the stable coins, will be applicable now. But still, there are some regulatory gaps. And that regulatory gaps are the ones that actually do not fill the permissionless part. So that's decentralized, decentralized finance is at the moment still not covered by, for example, AML obligations. So how can we actually navigate an open ecosystem, decentralized, without having clearly the possibility to fully manage all the risks. So in order to do so, we, by the way, just finished a 6 months testing period of an issuance of an e-money token directly supervised by Banca d'Italia. And I already shared with Guillaume that I had the chance to read their white paper, which I found very interesting, and we more or less have the same conclusions. So navigating a permissionless systems means, at least for now for banks, until those gaps are covered, that you need to enhance risk framework. Enhancing risk framework means that you have to create some limits. And so that's what we are at the moment talking about, whitelisting, for example. Plus, there are many, many aspects that from a legal perspective need to be covered, and at the moment, even though MiCA is a very good piece of legislation, are not covered. So permissionless is an ideal thing that we're trying to understand how to navigate, but in full compliance and with trying also to avoid any kind of reputation risks.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much. And I mean, we also discussed one of the core use cases or values of a bank as well, because we're like, okay, if it's moving to permissionless, are people going to just self-custody and the likes? You mentioned that being a bank, the custody side is really the home of whatever you tokenize. Do you want to give a little bit of context to the audience here about what you meant by that and kind of like the purpose you see kind of Banca Sella having in the future with regards to kind of being that custody provider, the trusted custody provider of some of these tokenized assets?
Yeah, sure. So what happens most of the times is that there is a distribution of a custody solution by someone else. Banca Sella obviously has a technology provider, but we are trying to enhance custody as much as we can fully internally. Whatever is the business strategy of a bank or whoever wants to navigate the Web3 ecosystem, well, the first thing you need to have is a custody. And a strong custody solution comes with strong risk frameworks. So that's exactly where at least we had a lot to struggle in building up completely internally, this kind of risk frameworks. And where I believe that actually the people that are more advantaged are CASPs, so crypto asset service providers. I work with Bitpanda, which is a very compliant company, has a very strong knowledge, and we tried and we're trying to bring this knowledge inside the banks because banks don't have this kind of knowledge at the moment. So having a strong custody is the first step in order to be able to talk about tokenization in 1 year, in 6 months, in 2 days, whenever it comes. And be fully aware of all the risks that sometimes not even crypto asset service providers have analyzed, and that comes from I believe, the huge experience that a bank has. Yeah. So we're able to see inside a fully, really a crypto service and notice something that maybe others did not.
Fantastic. Does anyone else want to comment on that kind of custody trust side, core reason for like having a bank taking care of your digital assets and the likes? Do any of you have any differing opinions with regards to what Gianluca said with regards to custody or any kind of in-house solutions? Do you work in-house? Do you go out-house? Like how do you operate that kind of side? Maybe Elodie, I don't know if you want to.
In terms of custody for the digital assets, we work with Taurus, so a Swiss company, but we try to personalize all the system. And I think it's really important, and we had a lot of discussion with the French regulator because customer protection is a main issue of the regulator right now. AML was the main issue 2 years ago, and now it's customer protection. And we discussed a lot about the custody process we put in place. We discussed about the best execution, so they try to use the standard process for investment, and now they apply this process for digital assets. So I think, yes, custody is, for us, the objective is to propose some personalized services for clients, and one of the main things is our current clients want to open a wallet with us. Why? Because if you want to buy crypto assets, some people are not comfortable to manage personally their wallets. It can be complicated, and they want to have, we say tiers de confiance in France, they want to work with banks simply. And we currently it's a starting point of the bull run. So we receive a lot of requests from prospects, and I think in the next year or this year we will see opportunistic behavior from clients, because the leading newspaper in France, and I think it's the same everywhere, crypto is a new golden assets for the year to come, and we have a lot of requests to manage wallets for our clients.
Fantastic. Great. I mean,
maybe I can add a bit on the custody side, and I can take different hats. So I was at Coinbase before. Coinbase, like as you may know, like in the ETFs in the US, 80% of these ETFs are using Coinbase as a custodian. I think there are two things. Like there is the technology aspect and operational aspect, and there is the licensing aspect. Obviously, in Europe, you have two leaders of technology solutions that are Taurus and Metaco, and I think are taking like all the market with most of the banks. And banks typically want to be in control of all the operations. They also want to be in control of the HSMs that they typically want to have on-prem. So the solution that Coinbase offers is more difficult to apply here, and they're not licensed as well in Europe at the moment as a custodian. Makes it more difficult, but the technology aspect, I haven't been into details of like what Metaco and Taurus offer, so I believe it's great because it's been accepted by some of the largest banks on the planet. But the keys are managed differently. That's just what I'm going to say. Like there are different solutions. In the end, like you choose what you feel comfortable with, but what is important is you need a solution that is going to work with the regulatory environment you live in.
Yeah, and maybe please.
No, just to add some color and not repeating on what was said, which I totally agree. I think it's it's the pillar of the banking services in this space. But I'd like just to complement that. We are currently at the stage where, because the banking environment was so shutting down, let's say, the industry for so many years, that you still feel almost the two extremes, and this is one of the mission statements that we have, is to try to I think that banks are in the best position to unite these two extremes, like the no coiners sort of say, and the more degens on the other side, because there are risks on both sides. There are also risks on just doing all your self-custody by yourself, as there is risk on holding, just bill notes below your mattress or in a vault in your home, right? And so this is exactly the space where banks can fill in and will actually help to drive the mass adoption, and it's already happening, right, with the ETFs, everything that is mentioned. So just to say that, custody has its risks, whether it's choosing someone to do the custody for you or several, which is something that we are praise a lot for, to be to always think about diversifying your risks and do proper risk management. That applies also to self-custody.
Yeah, fantastic. And maybe to bounce off what Guillaume said with regards to kind of your strategy depends on the regulatory environment that you're in. It is kind of, let's say, crypto banking around the globe. We have a heavy representation, let's say, of Europe here. Maybe we can give some further context as well as to your opinions around banking coming out of, let's say, the US, but also, let's say, we're all gathered here in Switzerland. Kind of the Swiss perspective, European perspective, US perspective. I mean, Guillaume, as you mentioned, you're coming from like Coinbase to America firm. Maybe there's like implications there. What do you believe is like the regulatory environment today, kind of globally? What are your perspectives around how the different regulatory environments are going to be playing against or with each other and the like? So we have clients that have multiple bank accounts in different jurisdictions. How is that going to play forward? I mean, maybe Gianluca, you want to give some context?
So honestly, I believe, I want to be very positive, because I believe that things will be going better and better, and there will be a lot of, so these regulatory gaps need only not to be filled from a European perspective, they need to be filled from an international perspective. So authorities need to talk each other. Transfer of funds, for example, is one of those cases. We have a lot of problems when it comes to different jurisdictions talking to each other, different regulations talking to each other. So I honestly believe it's only a matter of time. It will be pretty automatic and then things will be leveraging all around the world. What happens to be is that at the moment, I believe Europe is very forward. From a regulatory perspective, the European legislator has demonstrated on us to be very illuminated and having brought some pieces of legislation that are difficult also to be put in place means how ambitious it is. Yeah. And I hope that all the other regulators will be exactly as ambitious as the European ones.
Are our fellow panelists as hopeful or any bumps in the road?
I think hopeful for Europe, like MiCA arriving, so 30th of June for stablecoins, end of the year for other assets, digital assets, is going to be very positive. Harmonization within Europe, a very clear framework as well. And the hurdle, as you say, is not going to be easy to clear. So it's going to let some players like behind, and then they're not going to be able to clear all that. And I think it's going to be good for those who remain. Asia Pacific, Singapore in particular, Hong Kong, have been very friendly with crypto, tokenization in particular. Someone talked about MAS, Project Guardian, and there were others. Lots of banks have been involved, including the big Americans. The US is a bit more complicated. I think what is happening right now, in particular with the SEC, is going to make that innovation is not going to come from the US, at least on public blockchains.
For the US, from my perspective, I think we need to wait for the election. But for sure, we receive in France several delegations from US administration. They wanted to check and to discuss about the French license process and MiCA. And I think it's really interesting if the US administration want to just have more information about the European regulation. For me, they are preparing something. Yeah. Because a lot of big US actors are actually relocated in Europe.
Oh, okay. Crazy.
It's true.
Yeah.
we have Circle in France.
Yes. Yeah, which is really great.
I agree. I think, again, I've already mentioned I'm positive about that. I think that when you look into this globally, you know, hopefully, and this is what will come out of it is, you know, you'll have on one side the US where, you know, there is no specific law or regulation around this industry whatsoever. So it's, you know, you need to fit it in on the existing securities law. And it's a shocking contrast to what we'll have with MiCA, where it clearly states what's a stablecoin. What fits within MiCA and what fits within MiFID, which is also an important aspect. And of course, there will be a lot of discussions around that. Some mistakes will be made, but we need to start somewhere. And that's already a big difference. And even from the public perspective, which is something that still, at least for me personally, is an important thing to feel is, you know, if you go outside, if you talk to a regular person on the street, they still think, is that regulated at all? They don't even know that it's regulated. You know, for instance, in Portugal, very recently there was, you know, an interview coming on live on, you know, on the you know, peak of the audience hours, sort of say. And saying that it was an unregulated industry, which is not entirely correct, but, you know, putting that aside, once you have MiCA, definitely you can no longer say that it's not regulated, and just that fact alone is very, very important.
Fantastic, thank you. And before we then move to the audience's questions, which I'm sure there's many of, one last one. I mean, I've been told that there's quite a few of your colleagues from various other banks that are maybe less crypto friendly as you are all here today, that are very, maybe, I wouldn't say go as far as say anti-crypto, but have been closing various local bank accounts for crypto affiliation, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe we can provide the audience, of not naming any names of those various banks, some maybe some words of wisdom as to why you ventured down this path, and why they should maybe follow it as well, or maybe reconsider their ways of being so anti and move to that neutral space of that Switzerland kind of holds so dear to its heart. So maybe, yes, some words of wisdom to those banks and kind of the why you're doing it as well.
So I believe the best thing that ever can be said about DLT from a legal compliance, AML perspective, whatever we take, is we're talking about a public ledger. So everything is public, there's full traceability. The problem is on the opposite, what could happen if we enhance too much these features. The risk is to actually create a sort of big brother that completely watches whatever you do. So the pseudonymity, all the kind of aspects that sometimes create some fears have honestly to be seen and understood fully in order to understand that this technology really helps and really enhances the power of every kind of institution to understand better who the client is, what he is doing, without trying to use that technology in an illicit way for the customers, bad way for us, because we're not supervisors. We are banks and we have to serve clients.
Okay, that's a great one. Elodie, your words of wisdom?
I gave you the statistic at the beginning. So for me, it's just we need to answer our customer needs. Simply, we will have in a few years, maybe we will have more customer who need crypto services than standard customers. So I think we need to implement and to propose solution right now and not to wait, because from my perspective, we start, for example, receiving Lombard loan requests collateralized with crypto. Ah. Yeah, so it's something we need to work on, because clearly it will be the new customer of tomorrow. We will have a crypto wallet to manage.
Wow, fantastic.
What I would say is start from the basics, so education. Invest in education as much as you can, and try to start thinking about very simple use cases, right? One very obvious, and what we see banks doing is, just offering the possibility to buy and sell. That's great. But even looking into on-chain and having, interference or interacting with permissionless ledgers. Think about that in many cases, which we find it's very straightforward to find an individual that invested 10K in I don't want to name any exchange, but it can be Coinbase, and it's very easy to prove that he purchased that in that moment in time, and you can see the trail of him withdrawing to his self-hosted wallet, and then he's trying now to deposit and cashing out, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. And you can be fully sure that has no interaction with anything, that is sanctioned or anything. So I'll start by the simple use cases and grow from there.
Fantastic. Keep it simple.
I would go with the big picture, actually, which is the objective of blockchain. The benefits is a way to reframe capital markets, redefine them, like make this more efficient, remove intermediaries and rent seekers. Now the problem is, like, within your bank, within your group, like some of these intermediaries are going to be there, so you're going to disrupt yourself in some ways. But the thing is, you will disrupt others, and overall the big picture is, like, the overall benefit for your group is going to be, like, better than what you're going to lose on some of the subsidiaries that you have, or some of the business units. The other thing is, like, if you don't do it, like, someone else is going to come and disrupt you.
As easy as that. So transparency, customer centricity, education, and think of the big picture, because if you don't, somebody else will, and maybe it won't be these people on the panel, but somebody else will. So thank you so much to our audience, and thank you so much to our panelists. Let's give them a round of applause. Do we have 5 minutes for Q&A? Yeah, we can do. Okay. Does anyone have any questions for our panelists? We started a little bit late, so we can get 1 or 2 questions in. No burning questions. Yes, one right at the end.
So we talked about Switzerland, we talked about the US. What about the kind of migration that you've seen heading towards Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and Saudi? What's the feeling on the
That's a great question. The UAE, like the Middle East in particular, is very attractive for crypto, and they're very friendly with crypto at the moment. In particular, the UAE, you see Vara with Dubai. A lot of big hedge funds are there, a lot of exchanges, Bybit, OKX, and a few more are setting like their headquarters there. On the Abu Dhabi side, ADGM is also very friendly, and they have been building a framework dedicated to crypto. So yeah, you can expect to have like more people going there. I was actually like about to go there with Coinbase at some point, and I managed to travel there a few times. Very dynamic and very friendly with crypto in general.
Gianluca, do you want to comment quickly?
Sure. So honestly, I believe that's a very good point. Many people have been migrating there, but let me see the other side of. You can move there because you have business reasons, because you can find friendly regulators, an environment that honestly enhances you and welcomes you. But at the same time, I do not believe that you cannot take care of what is the European market. And considering all the stringent regulations that will enhance the reverse solicitation, if you want to solicitate European clients, you need to have you need to be in Europe. So wherever you go, that is something that you can definitely consider, but you cannot consider not having a base in Europe, not knowing what is the regulation in Europe, and not trying to targeting directly European customers from Europe. So you have to be prepared for the European framework, first of all, then whatever you want.
Great, fantastic. And I guess we'll wrap it up at that. Thank you once again to our panelists. Give them a round of applause, and we'll take it from there.
Thank you so much.